Hello and welcome to the Lost Pines Workshop. I'm JC Jensen. Today we're going to build a simple toolbox. If you look in the post, I've posted a free set of plans for how to build a simple toolbox. You can use, for materials, we can use 3/4 plywood, 1/2 inch plywood. I happen to have some leftover clear pine here that I'm going to use today, and we'll just simply go through the process of putting together this simple box. I'm going to demonstrate one using my favorite tool, my table saw, as well as I'm going to be using my bandsaw. I'm going to use a jigsaw for part of this, as well as my router on a router table. I will demonstrate these different methods. In a previous video, I talked about, you're getting started, maybe all you have is a skill saw. You can do some of these joints with a skill saw, provided you are take your time, really have your workpiece secured, and just be careful. It can be done on a skill saw, but it will be a challenge. But let's see how this is going to work. So again, I've chosen some clear pine that I just happen to have laying around the shop for the two ends, for the two end pieces. I'm going to utilize, I've decided to go with 12 inch top to bottom. I have two of those, and then for the length of my box, I'm going to do 18 inches. The size that you choose, the material that you choose, is totally up to you. I'm just giving you the basic shape and then how we achieve it, right? So again, starting with my two ends, that's where we're going to begin our project here. What I did was trace a pattern on the front end. I'll zoom it in here for you. I traced a pattern on here for what I want, what I think I want this toolbox to look like. Keeping into consideration up here at the top, we're going to be inserting a dowel for a handle. Your dowel should be a minimum of 3/4 inch diameter of a hardwood. Anything less than that or a soft wood will be prone to flex or pull out, depending on how you attach your handle. I'm going to give you some options with that as well. So I highly recommend at least 3/4 inch, perhaps a 1 inch dowel for your handle, and we'll get into that in a bit. So the pattern that's over here for the ends is entirely up to you. That's real flexible. All you need to make sure that you account for is the height of the sides that we'll be attaching here later. I have chosen for this box, initially thought 4 inches for the sides. Well, that's kind of deep. So I cut it down to 3.5. I wanted to go 3, but that was too short. So I split the difference and I went with 3.5. And I just drew that on here just as a visual reference. You don't have to draw it, just make your tick marks so you know where your pattern needs to end. Okay, so I've drawn that on this one. I'll show you how I did it. Okay, so to accomplish my pattern, I just used some basic stuff that I had laying around. Again, I decided to go 3.5 inches from the bottom. Let me flip this one around. 3.5 inches from the bottom. Make a mark here. 3.5 inches. Make a mark here. All right, that tells me where the bottom's going to be. Then at the top, so this is the bottom, flip it back around. I took a can, give me a curve because I am terrible at freehand drawing. And I took another old can that I use for nails and laid it there. I centered the two pieces simply by using a tape measure on the side. Just out of the way. Knock that over. How about 2 7/16 No, how about 2 1/8? 2 1/8, either side. Very good. I'm going to butt this can up to it. 1 1/8. 1 1/2. Oops, sorry, 5/8. 1 9/16. 1. Almost right there. Okay, center those two up. I'm going to take my pencil and just draw around the can. I just line the edge of the can up right here on the top. And come down here and do the same thing. All right, that gave me these 2 half circles, plus this guy over here. Then I went from there. I made a mark 1.5 inches, 1.5 on either side of this circle. Okay, and then I went up to this circle. Oh, come on. 4 7/16 right there. Again, where you mark this, how you lay this out is entirely up to you. But I just used what I had laying around. Or right there. Line up my dots, connect my dots. There's that one. And then I'm going to connect this one down here to the bottom, to the top of the side. So just like this. That. And over here. And connect. All right, so that gives me the shape. So the next thing is to cut this shape out. Let's accomplish that. So for this end, I've opted to use my handheld jigsaw with a HCS 20 TPI wood cutting blade. Available in a multi-pack when you go over to one of the box stores. Right on? So I have secured, just clamped this down to my workbench here on the top, so it's not going anywhere, and I made sure that my line, everything I'm going to cut, is obviously overhanging so I don't cut up my workbench. All right, so we'll just whip this guy out real fast, see what it looks like. Nice and easy peasy. Flip around, doing the same thing. Now we need to scoot you over a little bit. Clamp it down nice and tight. I'm getting some vibration because this end is not clamped, but I could put another clamp on here, but it's really not necessary. But it vibrates, and that's what's making some of that noise. And I'm clear all the way through. Let's cut this one. The thing you want to remember when you're using this is this blade goes all the way through the wood. Don't have your hands down here in the firing lane. You're liable to hurt yourself, right? So there we go. There's a basic shape. Any shape up here that you desire is just fine. All right, so that's using the jigsaw. Next, I'm going to do it with the bandsaw. Okay, for this end, we're going to use the bandsaw. Right now, I've actually got a 1/2 inch blade on here, which I use for a lot of resaw work. But because my curves are relatively wide, it'll cut through it just fine. If it hangs up, I'll show you how we can fix that. This also works, excuse me, if you're working really tight corners with your jigsaw, I'll show you how we can tackle that. We'll take off little bites instead of trying to take the whole curve at one time. All right, here we go. Right there, kind of binding up. So I'm just going to back out, come over here on the lee side. Pull that out of there. So just do this. Straight cuts in there. Draw down the line until I hit it, and that chunk will come out. There we go, same shape, different tool. I didn't worry too much about being just absolutely perfect, because now what I'm going to do is pair this up with the other one, and then we'll sand this off so that they're equal, and we get rid of all these burrs. So, okay, so I've got my two ends. I've clamped them together here in my vise on the workbench. You could just as easily clamp them together and secure them to the tabletop. I'm just using your basic 5-inch orbital sander with some 120 grit sandpaper, and I'm just going to pair these up where I cut it so that they're even, equal, smooth, and then we'll take the burrs off the back side. Okay, thank you. Okay, pop those out of there. Go ahead and sand the inside. And there you go. You have two identical end pieces, sanded, ready for the next step. Okay, so back over here at the table saw, I'm going to cut the rabbets in the two sides of our end piece. I've chosen to use the table saw with a single blade for this activity, just primarily because I want to show you how we can clean it up afterwards. Normally I use what we call a Dado stack, which has 2 saw blades and a number of chipper blades, depending on the width of rabbet or dado that we wish to cut. For your material on the plan, it calls for 1/2-inch plywood for the sides. However, I'm using what I've got in the shop today, and I'm going to be using pine, which is 3/4 of an inch. So my rabbets will be 3/4 of an inch wide on both sides to accept that 3/4 inch pine side board. The depth for our rabbets is going to be 3/8 or half of the thickness. That's going to give us a good solid joint. All right, so I'm going to run both of these pieces through. I make a pass. I started on the inside, the largest part, and I'm going to work my way out across all 4 cuts. So here we go. Slide over. Okay, so there we go. And you see I've got all of this left over where I didn't exactly measure the width of the blade on each pass, but that's okay. With this pine, it's real simple. I can break most of this right off, and we'll move back over to the workbench here, and I'll show you how we clean it up real nice. All right, let's move back over there. Okay, so back over here at the workbench, I just grabbed a handy dandy chisel. I snapped out a lot of those flakes that were left in there from the saw. I'm just going to take a nice sharp chisel and go in here and just gently shave it off that direction, and then just keeping it flat with the bottom of the kerf cut from the table saw. I'm just going to shave the rest of that out of there. Until it's nice and clean and flat. Just like that. All right, there's that one. I can knock out these other two real fast, same way. Sorry you can't see this side, but that. I'll just dress it down. Spot. I'll get out there. There we go. Go. And there's our flakes. So we just grab those guys and just pop them out of there. Easy peasy. Well, that grain is being stubborn. Go. There, get out of there. All right, there we go. Now, what I've just done with a single blade on the table saw, we can also do with another tool called a router, which I'm actually going to use next to put the dado across the bottom here to accept the bottom. So we'll move over there, and I believe that's the next step. Shaped ends, rabbet 2 short sides, dado inside along the bottom edge to support the bottom piece. So that's what we're going to do next, right here. Groovy? Okay, so I'm over here at my router table. This is router. It is, for those that don't know, we'll do another video on this later on. Anyway, so this is a router. It turns anywhere. Some of these are variable. This is fixed, and it turns this bit at about 18,000 RPM. So in this one, I have a 1/2 inch straight bit, and I can simply adjust the depth of cut by rotating the base. That sets the depth of cut. These are also available as what this is called the palm router. They're about half this size. Still have good power, not as much as this, but it will do this toolbox and a lot of other things. It's the palm router is really handy. They're not quite as big and scary as this guy. I have one, as you can see, this one is free. I've also got one here mounted underneath this table. Normally we're operating this way. And the free cutting, but on a router table, it's mounted. That router is mounted down here underneath. Adjusts a little bit differently. This table gives me some really precise elevation. The fence here on the back is fully adjustable, so I can set how far away from the bottom edge or the side, whatever it is that I'm cutting. I can adjust that as well. So I have this set up right now with a 1/4 inch straight bit. The fence is set 1/2 an inch from the back side of the bit because I want the bottom of the dado to be 1/2 inch up from the bottom. Normally I would just do this with a 1/2 inch bit, kind of like the dado though. I'm going to do this in multiple passes. So right now, 1/4 inch bit at a 1/4 inch height. That'll be my first pass on both pieces. Then I will adjust the fence back a 1/4 inch. Think about that a second. Back a 1/4 inch and make the second pass. The bottom calls for a 1/2 inch piece of plywood, which I have and I'm going to use. Next, I will raise the bit another 1/4 inch to give me a 1/2 inch depth, and make a pass, and then readjust the fence back that 1/4 inch and repeat the process. Now, if you've already cut your sides to length, you can do all 4 pieces, so you're not having to go through this process twice. But for the purposes of this video, I just wanted to basically focus on one piece at a time and show you the process. All right. Matter of fact, for the dado on the side pieces, I think I'll put the dado stack in and just run that through the table saw. It's a lot faster. So, all right, so here we go. Plug it in, and action. Gives us a nice smooth cut all the way across. Now, you notice I just went all the way through because this gap here on the end is going to be covered up with the side, so we're not going to see it. All right, we'll readjust the fence. All right, that's a 1/2 inch. I need to unlock. Slightly push you back about a 1/2 inch. A little bit more. Right there. That one down. Make sure we're the same on both sides. What? 8. what all right. Action. What? Let's take that to, I said 1/2 inch. We're going to make it 3/8 because that is the depth of our rabbets. They're hiding from me. There. All right. And repeat. Blades off. All right, we'll pull the fence back in to 1/2 inch. Right there. There's 5. Always come up short on the other side. All right. And action. All right, there we go. 1/2 inch wide, 3/8 of an inch deep. So it's the same depth as our 3/8 inch rabbet. Right on? All right, now we're gonna move on to the next. Okay, so we're back over here at the table saw. I have taken my material and gone ahead and cut it, ripped it. Again, this is pine. Ripped it to the 3.5 inches that I wanted for my sides. If you're using the 1/2 inch plywood, whatever you determined for your side, you just make them the appropriate width. The length right now, they're still longer. These measure right now 18. I'm going for a total length of 18. So I'll be trimming these off later on. But right now what we're doing is we're going to cut the dado down the inside bottom edge of the side pieces. Like I said, on the sides, or on the ends, we did it over on the router table. This is much faster, much easier, right? So I've changed out my ordinary rip blade and put on a dado stack, which has 2 for 1/2 inch width. It's 2 cutter blades and 2 chippers. Gives me exactly a 1/2 inch. So when I pass it through, it's going to cut that dado exactly a 1/2 inch wide. I set my fence 1/2 of an inch over from the inside edge of the blade. So this side of the stack. So the distance from this side of the stack to the fence is 1/2 inch. That means that from the bottom up 1/2 inch, and then it will cut that 1/2 inch dado. The height, again, just like we did on the ends, is set at 3/8. All right, so we got 2 passes with this, and we'll be done. And I'm having a table saw switch malfunction. Much safer, much cleaner, much faster. Okay, so as you can see, our box is coming together. We've got our 2 ends with our rabbets and our dados cut, and we have our 2 sides to the whatever height we chose with our dados cut all the way through those. So the next thing that we need to determine is the size of the bottom piece. Well, that is really easy. If we look at our joinery here, we put it together, this side is recessed into the end, 3/8 of 1 inch, right? And this dado is 3/8 of 1 inch, so it's equal. Simply to say that the length of our bottom needs to be the same length as our sides, because it'll butt up in the bottom of the end here, and the same on the other end. That takes care of our length. That one's easy. Okay, but for our width, we got to do a little math. All right, I have it set up here, so it's kind of easy to visualize. Typically, what we do is we can either work from the outside dimension or the inside dimension, and then we're either going to add the depth of the dado, or we're going to subtract it, depending on which way you're going. If you're working from the outside, measuring in, this is a 3/4 inch board, and we cut a 3/8 dado, which means there's 3/8 of material left, right? So if I took my total width and I subtract 3/8 of an inch for this side and 3/8 of an inch on this side, that's 3/4. So for me, that's 7 outside to outside minus 3/4 is 6 1/4. Or you can do it the other way. Take your inside measurement, which for me is, I forgot now, could really do math. 5 1/2 is the inside measurement. I would add 3/8 and 3/8, or 3/4 of an inch, which would give me 6 1/4. Okay, so there we go. Mine will be the same length as my sides and the width based on my 3/8 depth calculation. Right on. So I'm going to go and trim these down to the length that I need, which, like I said, there's some more math for you. If I put this together, I said I wanted an overall length of 18, but my sides were already cut to 18. Well, there's that math again. If I take my tape measure and run it across here, it's that 3/8 rabbet plus the 3/8 rabbet plus the 18 is 18. and 3/4. So I'm going to take 3/4 of an inch off of this side and then cut that plywood the same length, 18. That'll give me a finished dimension of 18. Okay, so let me go cut those and we'll be right back. Okay, so now that we got all of our pieces cut, the last thing that we need to accomplish is setting where we're going to put the handle. I found this piece of clothes rod hanger out of a closet I had laying around with a diameter of 1 1/8 inch diameter. And I want to make sure that I get that placed in exactly the same place on both pieces. So the easiest way to accomplish that is find your ruler. Here it is. All right, and I'm going to mark the center from down here at the bottom. So I'm at 5 1/2. Half of 5 1/2 is 2 1/2 1/4. Doing my funny math, right? And then I'm going to use this T-square that I can just line up across the bottom here, this nice and square. Set it to my mark and draw my line. That gives me the center line up here at the top. Next, I've decided that, in order to be sure I've got enough meat up here to carry the weight and the handle on it, I'm going to leave 1/2 inch of material up here at the top. All right, I said that my rod was 1 1/8 inch, so I'm going to drill an 1 1/8 inch hole. So I'm going to find the center of that. 1/2 of 1 inch is 1/2, and 1/2 of 1/8 is 1/16. So I make a little tick mark right there. And that's where the center of my hole is going to be. Now we have a couple of different ways or methods that we can accomplish this hole. For one piece, I'm only going to drill a hole 3/8 of an inch deep, half the thickness, where the handle will rest into. The other end, I'm going to drill all the way through. And I'll show you both of those. But first, we're going to move over to the drill press. I'm going to drill the hole 3/8 of an inch deep at 1 1/8 inch diameter. So here at the drill press, I'm ready to drill my hole for the handle. I'm going to be utilizing a 1 1/8 Forstner bit. Secured here to my drill press. This is a freestanding drill press, and I've already adjusted to the appropriate speed. To accomplish the hole, to get the 3/8 depth that I want, what I did on this bit was measured from the bottom of the cutting edge up that 3/8 of an inch, and I took my Sharpie and just made a line. If I was going to repeat this multiple times, I would simply set the depth stop over here on the side of the press, so I could just pull the handle until it hit the stop, which would define the bottom. Okay, so let's just drill this one out real fast. Centered it up on the hole. Now secure this to the paper. So for softwood, 1.1 inch, the speed was 1,000 RPM. There is, I believe, a link to the drill press speed chart that I posted earlier. So there's our hole, 3/8 of an inch deep, 1.1 inch diameter. Now we'll move back over to the workbench and I'll give you some options for drilling the through hole. Okay, so back over here on the workbench, we're going to drill a hole all the way through this end. We have a couple of options for that. Well, I'm still going to use my Forstner bit to accomplish the task. But if I simply clamp this to the workbench and drill a hole with the Forstner bit all the way through, on the back side, it's going to tear this out really bad. And we don't want that. So an option is to simply take a twist drill bit and drill a pilot hole all the way through. Then we can take the Forstner bit, drill down, 1/2 to 3/4 of the way through, stop, turn the piece over. Using the pilot hole, we know where the center is. We can drill back through this side. That'll give us a nice clean cut through both sides. Another option is to take a scrap piece of wood placed underneath where we're going to drill, securing those two together so they're nice and tight, right? Then we can just drill straight through. This, because it is supported by the scrap piece underneath, will help prevent the tear out on the back side. That's the method I'm going to use this time. So, got my scrap on there, and I'm going to secure this to the bench over the scrap. Really secure so it's nice and tight and there's no slop between my two pieces. It's secured on the table. Take our handy drill, tighten her down. I'm going to setting 1, which is the slowest speed. It's a little slow. It's not going to make quite 1,000 RPM, but the high speed setting of 2 is too fast. And all that'll do is burn up my bit. So I'm just going to slow it down. It's soft wood. It's going to cut real easy. Now, the only other thing I got to pay attention to is trying to keep this at 90 degrees. Our drill press does that for us really nice. And you can get tabletop drill press stands that will accept these cordless drills so that you can perform this operation that way. But I'm just going to freehand it and it'll be just fine. Always like to back out a little bit, clean it out. Yeah, just a smidgen more. There we go. Saw that color change in the wood, tells me I was drilling into the plywood backer. And we have a nice clean hole all the way through. Next, we need to make sure that our dowel rod is actually going to fit through the hole. If not, then we can sand it or whatever's necessary. This one's still just a bit tight. So I'm going to sand this down, the dowel. I'll sand it down just a little bit so it's not such a tight fit. All right, I'll sand this down. We'll come back and we'll look at this. So here I've dry fitted the box together and I wanted to explain some options. So on this end, we drilled our hole, recessed it 3/8 of an inch deep so that it doesn't show here on the outside. It's trapped in that end piece. You can do exactly the same thing on this end if you desire, thereby trapping the handle in between these two pieces. As long as everything is square and tight, that handle's not going to come out. But another option, what I've chosen to do is I ran it all the way through on this end and then drilled a hole for a 3/8 inch dowel all the way through. And this hole is 1/64 of an inch smaller than this 3/8 dowel. So when I drive it in here, it's going to lock. It'll lock the handle in place so that it can't come out. But should I need or want to do something different, I can simply remove the dowel and remove the handle. Easy, right? Another option, as you explore more woodworking techniques and practices, another option would be for it to go through, be cut off flush, have a slot cut in it across, and the depth of however wide or thickness of this. So it's called a wedged tenon. So you would take and cut that slice through there, create a wedge. After you've assembled it here and applied your glue, glue the wedge, and then drive the wedge into the end of the shaft, which would cause it to expand, right? That's going to lock it in place on this end. That's another option. Some older techniques that I've seen, this is cut off flush to the outside, and then a big washer with a screw. Lots of options. You just be creative, right? This is your toolbox. The material that you chose, the height of the size, the length of the box, you have all that flexibility to do whatever it is that you want to do. But this is kind of the basic premise of how to create your toolbox. So the only thing that I have left to do at this point for this box will be to glue it together. Now, what about fasteners? Do we need fasteners? We could, if we so desired. We can just glue it. Glue is really strong. The thing to remember about gluing is long grain to long grain. So this rabbet here, we have the end grain, we have the end grain of this board going into the long grain of this one. Well, in my world, end grain gluing doesn't count. But the long grain to this long grain, that counts. That gives us a nice good bond. If this is all we have, perhaps we want to shoot brads in it. Here I have this is called a brad gun, right? And it shoots, brads are nothing more than really tiny nails, right? And they come in different lengths. I could shoot brads in there. That will help some. I could use just some basic hand finish nails. This is 3/4 of an inch thick material overall, but my rabbet is only 3/8. So I would probably go with an inch and a quarter, or 1.5 inches finish nail, and just drop a couple in there, just to help support that joint. Could do that on all four corners here if we wanted to. The other thing we could do, we could put some screws in it. We could use a drill bit to drill a pilot hole in here and use some wood screws. We could countersink the head so that they sit flush. So you've got options how you want to do it. All I'm going to do is glue, right? This is probably going to become Kim's garden box for her garden tools when she's out playing with her vegetable garden. So it doesn't need to be super duper strong, right? But the glue joint's really strong. The point of fracture most often in wood will happen because of the grain in the wood coming apart, not your glue joint. But there are some other notes to this I'll include in a separate video, because you'll notice here as we've assembled this, our grain direction on the end is different than the grain direction on the front. That could cause problems in furniture. So I'll discuss that in another video. Go back to my wood movement video, and I talked about it some in there, but I'll talk about it some more. Okay, so that's it. That wraps up our series on how to build a simple toolbox. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I know I've got my camera all sideways and funny. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you enjoyed the series on getting this simple toolbox put together, maybe consider subscribing. I've got a whole series for the beginning woodworker, and this is just part of it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you down the road.